How much do you want for it?" The man behind the glass counter didn't look up. He was holding the ring under a small lamp, turning it slowly, the way people turn things they are deciding the value of. Lena stood on the other side of the counter with her coat buttoned wrong. She had dressed in the dark because Marcus had a bad night and she hadn't wanted to wake him, and her hands pressed flat on the glass to stop them from shaking. "Whatever it's worth," she said. "I just need it today." The pawnbroker set the ring down. "I can do $300. $300. She had paid the gas bill with the last of her account 2 days ago. Marcus's school had called yesterday about the lunch program balance. The refrigerator had a block of cheese, 4 eggs, and a thing of mustard. $300 was not nothing. "Okay," she said. She did not look at the ring again. She signed the paper he slid across, took the cash in an envelope, and walked back out into the February cold. She sat in the car for a moment. Just a moment. Then, she started the engine and drove to the grocery store because Marcus had asked for the cereal with the blue box and she was not going to come home without it. If you've ever sold something you couldn't afford to lose in order to give someone else something they needed, stay with us. Because the man who bought that ring had no idea what it was, and when he found out, nothing in his life was ever the same again. Subscribe right now, because this story moves fast and you will not want to miss what happens next. Lena Hart had married Daniel Voss when she was 27 and he was 31. He was not yet the man he would become. The Voss Group didn't exist yet. The magazine covers hadn't happened. The name wasn't the kind that made rooms rearrange themselves. He was just Daniel, who worked 18-hour days and believed in things with a specificity that she had never encountered in another person. He believed in her. Specifically, he said it like a position he had taken, like a flag he had planted. They were happy for 4 years. Not perfect. Daniel worked too much. She swallowed too many complaints, and neither of them was good at the particular courage of saying "I'm struggling" before it became "I'm leaving." But they were genuinely happy. She still believed that. Marcus was born in year 3. Daniel was in the delivery room for 11 hours and did not sit down once. When the nurse put Marcus in his arms, he cried with the absolute absence of self-consciousness that men only manage when they've forgotten there's an audience. Lena had watched him from the bed and thought, whatever else, this is real. The divorce was year 5. It was not dramatic. It was not an affair or a revelation or a single catastrophic event. It was an accumulation of missed dinners, of conversations that kept getting postponed until they became impossible to have, of a woman who had quietly stopped asking for what she needed, and a man who had quietly stopped noticing she'd gone silent. By the time they sat across from each other in the mediator's office, they were already so careful with each other that it felt more like a closing ceremony than a fight. She had not asked for much. She had a job she loved, a small house that was almost paid for, and a 4-year-old who needed consistency more than he needed a large settlement. Daniel offered more than she asked. She took less. That was who she was. She kept the ring because Marcus had once asked why her finger was bare, and she hadn't been ready to explain what bare meant. Then came the year that everything else went wrong at once. The engineering firm she worked for lost a major contract and restructured. Restructured meant her. She found freelance work, then less of it. The almost paid-for house needed a new furnace in October. Marcus got sick in November, not badly, not dangerously, but sick enough to miss 2 weeks of school and generate medical bills that arrived in a stack like small punishments. By February, she had the ring, a depleted savings account, and a 7-year-old who trusted her completely. She drove home from the grocery store with the blue box cereal on the passenger seat and the heat turned all the way up and the radio off. She was not thinking about Daniel. She had not thought about Daniel seriously in 2 years. He had become the kind of presence that existed in a parallel life. In the headlines she scrolled past, in the school pickup line when his assistant dropped Marcus off and she caught herself looking at the car for him, but not a real daily wait. She had moved past that. She was good at moving past things. She was extremely good at it. She was not expecting him. Daniel Voss bought the ring on a Thursday afternoon from a pawnbroker in the West Loop named Kessler, who had $300 worth of other people's jewelry in his display case and a system for cataloging new acquisitions. The system involved a basic inventory form and, occasionally, when something was unusual, a reverse image search. He ran one on the ring because of the engraving, tiny, inside the band, the kind of detail that required reading glasses to make out, D+L, always finding. It was unusual. He ran it. The image brought up a society page photo from 7 years earlier. A wedding. The groom was Daniel Voss, identifiable because the photo was tagged, and because the Voss Group's PR team had at some point uploaded it as part of a business profile piece. The bride's ring was visible in the photo, the ring currently on Kessler's counter. Kessler, who was 63 years old and had seen enough of other people's situations to know when something was not his business, and when it was, picked up his phone and called the number on the Voss Group website. He got an assistant. He explained what he had. 40 minutes later, Daniel Voss walked into the pawn shop. He picked up the ring and held it under the lamp the same way Kessler had. He turned it over. He read the engraving that he had stood in a jeweler's shop choosing for 20 minutes because he'd wanted exactly the right 4 words. Always finding. Because that was what they had called it. The way they kept finding each other in the same city before they'd started dating. The 4 coincidences that had felt too precise to be random. He put the ring in his jacket pocket. He paid Kessler 4 times what Kessler had paid Lena, which was not what the ring was worth, but was what Daniel could do in the moment. And he walked back out to his car and sat in it for a while. Then he called his lawyer. Not about the ring, about what kind of situation would cause Lena Hart to sell a ring she had kept for 7 years. He made one call and asked for a quiet summary of Lena's financial situation. He said, please. He said, keep it brief. He had the summary by evening. He sat in his office and read it face down on the desk. He did not sleep much. He showed up at her house on Saturday morning, unannounced at 9 o'clock, with 2 coffees from the place she had liked when they were married. He rang the doorbell. He waited. The door opened and Marcus looked up at him with his mother's eyes and his father's jaw and said, Dad. Hey, bud. Daniel crouched down to Marcus's height. Is Mom home? Marcus turned and shouted with the complete vocal uninhibitedness of a 7-year-old, Mom. Dad's here. He has coffee. There was a silence from inside the house. Then footsteps. Then Lena appeared in the hallway in a sweatshirt and no shoes, and the expression on her face moved through 3 things very quickly. Surprise. Something unreadable, and then a careful composure that he recognized, because he had watched her build it across the last year of their marriage. Daniel, she said. What are you? He held out the coffee. Can I come in? She looked at the coffee. She looked at him. She let him in. Marcus ate cereal at the kitchen table, blue box, he noted, while they stood in the small living room, and Daniel reached into his jacket pocket and set the ring on the side table between them. Lena looked at it. She didn't pick it up. She looked at it the way you look at something you'd decided to stop looking at. Kessler called the office, Daniel said. Of course he did. Her voice was quiet, not angry, just tired in the particular way that comes from carrying something too long. You didn't have to come. I know. I'm fine, Daniel. I know you'd say that. She crossed her arms. Not defensive. It was what she did when she was trying to hold herself still. I have it handled. The freelance work is picking up, and I have an interview on Tuesday that Lena, he said her name the way he used to say it, before they'd gotten careful with each other. Just her name. I know about the furnace. I know about the medical bills. I know Marcus's school called about the lunch account. She went very still. I had no right to look into your situation, and I did it anyway, he said. Because someone sold a ring in a pawn shop, and I needed to understand why. And I'm sorry for the intrusion, but I am not sorry for knowing. The silence in the room was complete, except for the sound of Marcus eating cereal and humming something tuneless and cheerful. What do you want, Daniel? She said finally. I want to fix it. You don't get to just. I know I don't get to. He kept his voice even. I'm asking, not because I owe you, although I probably do, and not because I feel guilty, although I do. I'm asking because you sold your ring to buy cereal, and I have been the beneficiary of your competence and your sacrifice for years, and I was not paying attention when I should have been, and I would like to stop not paying attention. She looked at him for a long time. He waited. He was good at waiting for things that mattered. Marcus needs consistency, she said finally. Not a check that makes me feel like a problem you solved. I know. And I need to work. I need the interview on Tuesday to go well. I don't want to be rescued, Daniel. I want to get back on my feet. I know that too. He picked the ring up from the side table and held it out to her. Keep it. It belongs to you. And take the Tuesday interview, and let me be more present with Marcus, more than the assistant dropping him off, because that's something I should have corrected 2 years ago, and I ran out of nerve. She looked at the ring in his outstretched hand. She didn't take it yet. Why did you have it engraved that way? She said. I never asked you. Always finding. Why that? He thought about it. He had thought about it on the drive over, because I kept finding you before I knew I was looking. And I thought if I put it in the metal, it would remind me to keep looking. He paused. I stopped looking. That was my failure, not yours. She took the ring. She did not put it on. She folded her fingers around it and held it, and he watched her face do something complicated in private that he did not try to read. I'll call the school Monday, he said. Just the account. I'm not buying anything else without asking. She nodded. He went to the kitchen doorway. Marcus, Bud, want to come to the park? Marcus looked up from the blue box cereal with the expression of a child who has been hoping for exactly this without letting himself believe it was coming. Right now? Right now. Marcus was already off the chair. Lena stood in the living room with the ring in her hand, and she heard her son's sneakers on the floor and her ex-husband's quiet laugh at something Marcus said. And she felt something loosen in her chest that she had not known was tight. She had been holding so much by herself for so long that she had forgotten what it felt like for someone to simply show up and share the weight. She did not let herself hope for too much. She was a careful woman, and she had learned caution the particular way people learn it, through having something and losing it. But she held the ring and she listened to her son, and she allowed herself for the first time in a long time to leave the next thing unresolved. The Tuesday interview went well. The firm offered her a senior contract that put her back on stable ground within 60 days. She called Daniel that night, not to report the news, just because she wanted to tell someone, and he was the person she wanted to tell. He came to dinner on a Thursday in March. Then another. Then Thursdays became the thing. The way certain things become the thing without anyone making an announcement about it. He showed up on time. He stayed to help Marcus with homework. He washed dishes without being asked, which he had occasionally done during the marriage, and she had always registered it as a small and specific kindness. She did not rush it. Neither did he. They had both been careless with something precious once, and the memory of that was itself a kind of wisdom. Not a warning to stay away, but a reason to move slowly and look carefully and say the things out loud before they became impossible to say. In May, he told her he hadn't stopped loving her. Not as a speech, not on a bent knee. He said it the way he'd said it the first time, sitting across from her in an ordinary room, like a fact he'd been sitting on too long. She was quiet for a moment. "I know," she said. "Is that all?" "No." She looked at him. "I never stopped either. I just couldn't find us anymore. We got buried under all the things we didn't say." "I know." He reached across the table and put his hand over hers. "I'd like to try again. Slower, smarter, with better communication and fewer things left unspoken." "That's a very practical proposal," she said. "I'm a practical man. You drove across the city to buy a wedding ring out of a pawn shop." He was quiet for a second. "That was also practical. The engraving was expensive." She laughed. She had forgotten what it was like to laugh with someone who knew where the laugh came from. They took the rest of the year. There were Thursdays, and phone calls, and Marcus's school play where they sat side by side in small chairs and Daniel held the program so tightly it bent, and a Saturday morning in October when she came downstairs to find him and Marcus making pancakes, the spatula situation between them suggesting they had been practicing. She stood in the doorway and watched them. Her son. Her. She let herself use the word. Her person. The February morning felt very far away. The wrong coat buttons. The $300 in a plain envelope. It had felt, at the time, like the floor giving out. It turned out to be the thing that started everything back up. They were married again on a Sunday in June the following year, in the backyard of the small house, the almost paid-for one, with the new furnace. Just family, just people who knew the real version of the story, and loved them anyway. Marcus stood between them in a new blazer he had chosen himself, and took both their hands with the unconscious certainty of a child who has always known, somewhere below thought, that this was how it was supposed to look. She wore the ring. The engraving hadn't changed. D+L. Always finding. It turned out that was the right 4 words after all. Not a promise made at the beginning. A description of what they kept doing. Finding each other, losing the thread, finding it again, and a commitment to keep doing it. This time with their eyes open. This time saying the things before the silence swallowed them. Some things break you open just enough to let the light back in. A furnace in October. A ring under a lamp. A man who reads an engraving and drives across the city before he's decided what he's going to say when he gets there. What's worth finding will be found. And the right people will not stop looking. If this story stayed with you, send it to someone who needs to hear it today. And subscribe, because we're here every week, and we're just getting started.